Have you ever stopped to wonder what happens to a man's body when no one touches it for 10 years? George is 72, a quiet man, used to work with his hands. He built a home for his wife, raised 2 kids, fixed every broken faucet in the house. But now he doesn't know what to do with his hands. Not anymore. Since his wife passed, he hasn't been with anyone, not intimately, not even privately. And for years, he thought that part of him was over, until one night he sat in bed and whispered to himself, "I don't even remember the last time I felt anything." This isn't just George's story. It's the story of millions of older men who silently carry questions they never ask out loud. Why does something that once brought comfort now feel rushed, disconnected, or even shameful? Why do I feel less like a man when I try to reconnect with my body? And why is nobody talking about this? The truth is, masturbation in later life isn't just normal, it can be vital. For your heart, your prostate, your sleep, your mental clarity. But only if done with care, not habit. With understanding, not shame. In this video, we'll gently unpack 7 common mistakes older men make when touching themselves, and why just fixing one of them could completely transform your experience. You'll walk away not just with facts, but with a quiet sense of power, of dignity, and of something you may not have felt in a long time. Ownership of your body again. George used to think it was just aging, that maybe it was normal to feel nothing when he touched himself. That the fading sensation, the disconnection, the hollowness after climax was just part of getting old. He even laughed it off once, said, "I guess the engine's still running, but the spark plugs are shot." But what if the problem wasn't age? What if the reason so many older men feel disconnected from their bodies isn't because they're too old, but because they're still using the habits of their 30s to care for a body in its 60s or 70s? Let's go deeper. Most men grew up with a certain kind of message. Touch was functional, fast, private, often rushed. Masturbation was never talked about as self-care, never as something sacred. It was just a thing to get over with. So those habits got hardwired. Same hand, same rhythm, same pressure. And now, decades later, the body has changed. Slower circulation, thinner skin, reduced nerve response, hormonal shifts. But the old habits haven't. It's like trying to start a modern electric car with a gas pedal from the 1970s. Here's what science actually says. Studies from Harvard, the Mayo Clinic, and urological research centers worldwide now confirm moderate mindful self-pleasure in older age is not only not harmful, it's often essential for physical and emotional health. It helps reduce prostate congestion. It supports better sleep by calming the nervous system. It encourages testosterone regulation, enhances blood flow, reduces cortisol, and can improve mood, memory, and even immunity. That's not myth, that's measurable. But here's the issue. Most older men never learned how to adapt. No one taught them that what worked in your 30s may quietly sabotage you in your 70s. That gripping too tightly, rushing too quickly, or avoiding lubrication might be doing more harm than good. That holding it in, thinking you're preserving energy, might actually be increasing pressure in the pelvic floor, contributing to discomfort or even long-term dysfunction. And worst of all, many carry around a quiet shame, not knowing where it came from. Just a lingering sense that maybe I shouldn't be doing this at my age. That shame becomes tension. That tension becomes disconnection, that disconnection becomes silence. And over time, it leaves men like George feeling like ghosts inside their own skin. But here's what no one told them. You don't need to stop, you just need to evolve. You need new tools, yes, but more than that, you need a new understanding, a new rhythm, a new permission. Because aging isn't the end of pleasure, it's an invitation to deepen it, to move from performance to presence, from habit to intention, from shame to intimacy. And intimacy, real grounded personal intimacy, can exist even when you're alone, especially then. So if you've been wondering why you feel numb, flat, or frustrated after touching yourself, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've never been shown another way. And that's what we're about to do together. George isn't the only one, not by a long shot. There's Peter, 68, who still sleeps beside his wife, but hasn't touched her in years. Not because he doesn't love her, but because every time he reaches for her, something inside him pulls back. He doesn't feel anything, so he gives nothing, and then lies awake wondering if it's too late to start again. There's Daniel, 74, who lives in a care facility. Privacy is a luxury. He shares a hallway with 10 others, and any small sound echoes like thunder. He used to quietly take time for himself once a week. Now he hasn't in months. He tells himself it doesn't matter, but his body misses it more than his words admit. And there's Malik, 71, who tries every few weeks. But after a few rushed minutes and a numbed-out finish, he's left staring at the ceiling, thinking, is this really all that's left? These men are not strange. They are not weak. They're not doing anything wrong. They are simply carrying outdated beliefs in bodies that need new attention, in a world that never gave them the words to say, I still want this, I still deserve this, and I don't know how to ask. Maybe you know what that feels like. Maybe you've ever tried to touch yourself, but instead of comfort, you felt emptiness. Instead of relief, you felt shame. Or maybe you didn't feel much at all, and that absence scared you more than pain would have. Maybe you've had nights when the room was quiet, your body called for something, but you turned over, shut your eyes, and silenced it. Not because you didn't care, but because you didn't know if you were allowed to care. That's what no one tells you. That desire doesn't vanish. It just goes quiet. And that silence, when left unspoken, can start to feel like failure. But it isn't. It's simply a sign that something inside you wants to be heard again. That your body still remembers what connection felt like. That your mind still longs to return to itself. Not in the ways of your youth, but in the wisdom of your age. If anything in this video has stirred something inside you, know this. You are not broken. You are not past your time. And you are most definitely not alone.
Now it's time we name them. The quiet habits, the patterns, the invisible traps that slowly numb your connection to your own body. Not out of malice, but out of routine, out of repetition, out of never having been shown another way. Let's unpack the 7 most common mistakes older men make when it comes to self-pleasure. Not to judge, but to understand. Not to correct, but to awaken. But the first one runs deep. It's the myth of control. Many men still believe that holding in their ejaculation builds strength, heightens energy, or raises testosterone. It's a narrative wrapped in ancient philosophy and online pseudoscience. But the body doesn't function on myth, it functions on movement. When you withhold for too long, you create stagnation in the pelvic floor. This can lead to discomfort, congestion, irritability, and even increased risk of prostate problems. Harvard research has shown that men who ejaculate at least 21 times per month have a 33% lower risk of prostate cancer. Let that sink in. Not only is pleasure allowed, it may be life-saving. And yet many men chase this idea of discipline, thinking control equals masculinity. But in truth, understanding rhythm, your own rhythm, is where real strength lies. The next mistake, repetition. For decades, many men have used the same grip, the same pressure, the same stroke over and over again. And the body adapts. It becomes conditioned to only respond to that specific kind of stimulation. The result? Reduced sensitivity during intimacy, frustration when things don't work the way they used to. Just like muscles grow from varied movement, your pleasure pathways thrive when given variety. Switch hands, change tempo, use a pillow, try a silicone sleeve. These aren't tricks. They're ways of retraining your nervous system to stay curious, alive, responsive. Another pattern that steals intimacy, rushing. So many men learned to touch themselves in secrecy, in silence, behind closed doors before someone walked in, and that speed becomes a habit. But speed and presence rarely coexist. When you rush, your mind doesn't stay in the moment. Your body doesn't get the full chance to build arousal, and over time, climax becomes mechanical, numb, even disappointing. Slow it down, breathe, let each sensation linger a little longer. Turn 10 minutes into 20. You're not trying to finish, you're trying to feel. Here's a mistake most men never even notice: ignoring the rest of the body. So much attention is placed on one small region, as if pleasure lives in only one place. But the body is full of nerves. The chest, the inner thighs, the neck, the lower back, the perineum. These aren't distractions, they're gateways. Touching these areas, exploring them without expectation, reawakens the full body response that aging often silences. And if you've never done it before, start small. Even placing your palm over your heart for a few deep breaths can shift everything. Now let's talk about something deceptively simple: lubrication. As skin gets thinner with age and natural moisture decreases, lubrication becomes essential. Yet many men avoid it. They think it's messy or unnecessary or a sign of not working like I used to. But the truth is, lubricant is like glasses for reading. It helps the body stay comfortable, responsive, smooth. Less friction means less micro damage, more relaxation, and a better chance at sustained arousal. Try silicone-based. Warm it in your hand. Let it be part of your ritual, not a workaround. But even the right techniques fall short if shame still lingers in the background. This is perhaps the heaviest mistake of all: carrying guilt about something that's deeply human. Many older men were raised in cultures or households where sexuality was silent, where touching yourself was whispered about or condemned outright. That early programming doesn't disappear. It buries itself inside. And decades later, even with all the logic in the world, a flicker of shame still surfaces. But here's what to remember: shame is not instinct, it was taught, which means it can be unlearned. There is nothing immoral about caring for yourself, Nothing unworthy about wanting to feel. In fact, the act of self-tip, when approached with gentleness and honesty, can be a powerful step toward emotional healing. And finally, one mistake most men never even consider: refusing support. The idea that real men don't need tools, that if your hand isn't enough, something must be wrong with you. But think about it. We wear orthotics when our feet hurt. We wear glasses when our eyes strain. We use canes when our knees ache. So why is it any different when it comes to pleasure? There are incredible tools designed specifically for older men. Ergonomic sleeves for stiff joints. Buff massagers for areas you've never explored. Devices that mimic touch with more comfort, more control. These aren't replacements. They're allies. Ways of honoring the fact that your body is changing and that your care should too. In the end, it's not just about what you do. It's how you do it, with awareness, with presence, with permission. Because pleasure at this stage in life isn't about escape. It's about return. That George didn't start with confidence. He started with a chair by the window, the morning sun, a cup of tea, and 10 minutes just for him. For the first time in years, he didn't go straight to the goal. He didn't chase a feeling. He simply sat, shirt open, breathing into the space between his ribs, letting his hand rest not on his genitals, but gently on his chest. At first, he didn't feel much, but what he did feel was strange. Not arousal, not pleasure, something quieter, a kind of presence. And then a thought crossed his mind. When did I stop believing this was allowed? That's the moment everything shifted. Not because he climaxed, but because he connected to his breath, his body, his self. You see, transformation rarely begins with technique. It begins with truth. And the truth is, most men don't need more information. They need permission. Permission to feel without guilt, to explore without shame, to go slow without pressure, to want without apology. So here's the question I want you to sit with. When was the last time you touched yourself with care, not as a means to an end, but as an act of listening? Not to fix something, not to release something, just to reconnect. What would happen if tonight you gave yourself 15 minutes not to perform, but to breathe into your own body? No goal, no rush. Just a simple gesture of kindness. Quiet hello to the parts of you you've ignored. A warm hand over your chest. A slow exhale into your belly. Would you feel awkward? Resistant? Relieved? Would you even know what to do with that silence? Because here's the deeper truth. You cannot reclaim sensation without first reclaiming attention. So before we talk about what to do differently, before we change habits, try new tools, or rewire old responses, you need to ask yourself one thing. Do I still believe I deserve to feel? Not can I, not should I, but do I allow myself to? Because pleasure in older age is not a technique problem. to worthiness problem, and worthiness can only be restored from within. So I'll leave you with this quiet challenge. It's not physical, it's emotional. Tonight, before bed, stand in front of the mirror to fix, not to critique, just to see, look at the man standing there, not the body that aged, but the soul that stayed, the one still longing, still curious, still alive, and ask him gently, honestly, he's still in there. And listen, you might be surprised at what he says. So now what? You've heard the myths. You've seen the mistake. You've even stood in front of the mirror, asking the questions no one else can answer for you. And maybe for the first time in years, you're ready to begin again, not to return to how things were, but to explore how they could be. Let's make this simple. No overwhelm, no pressure. Just a gentle invitation to return to yourself, step by step. There's a rhythm you can follow, a 3-week restoration practice. You can start tonight, right where you are. Week 1, reconnect without galls. Start by reclaiming space. Pick a time when you won't be interrupted, maybe mid-morning when the house is quiet, or early evening when you're winding down. Turn off your phone, close the door, dim the lights, and say, no urgency, no expectation, just 10 minutes to sit with yourself. Place one hand over your chest, feel it rise and fall, and place the other over your belly. Let your breath slow. For these first few days, don't go near your genitals. You're not here to perform, you're here to listen. Explore your skin, your thighs, your arms, your ribs, your face. When was the last time you touched yourself outside of duty? Touch without purpose is healing. It reminds your body it's still loved even when it's not useful. You may cry, you may feel nothing, you may laugh. All of it is welcome. Write down anything you notice, even if it's just, I felt weird. That's real. That's the beginning. Week 2, introduce mindful exploration. Now that you've made peace with your body again, it's time to gently reintroduce touch. Get a quality lubricant. Silicone-based is often best for aging skin. Warm a small amount in your hands. Feel the texture. Let it become part of the ritual, not just a utility. Touch yourself as slowly as possible. Change pace. Change pressure, switch hands. Pause. Breathe with each movement. Notice when your mind drifts and gently come back. You're not chasing climax, you're chasing presence. Let the session end whenever it needs to. If you don't finish, that's okay. You're building connection, not collecting results. If arousal happens, wonderful. If not, it still counts. Try placing gentle pressure on the perineum, the soft space between scrotum and anus. Massage it in slow circles. This stimulates pelvic circulation and awakens forgotten nerves. And if you notice resistance, emotionally or physically, don't rush through it. Pause, breathe into it. That's the moment your nervous system begins to rewire. Week 3, craft your own ritual. So now it's time to make it yours. Maybe you light a candle. Maybe you play soft instrumental music. Maybe you begin every session by rubbing lotion into your chest and saying, I'm allowed to feel. These small details matter. They turn routine into ritual. And ritual builds reverence. Think of it like tending a garden. You don't yank flowers out of the soil. You water, you wait, you let light in. That's what your body needs now. Water, patience, permission. You may choose to integrate simple affirmations. My body belongs to me. I deserve to feel connected. Slowness is strength. And yes, if climax comes, receive it. Breathe into it, let it move through you like a wave. But when it passes, don't rush to get up. Stay. Let the warmth linger. In that stillness, you might feel something you haven't felt in years. Not just satisfaction, but peace. And a few helpful tips from men like you. One man began adding 5 minutes of deep breathing before every session. His sleep improved. Another placed a small note inside his drawer that read, "Don't forget your neck." He said it changed everything. Owenbor started tracking his sessions like a mood journal, not to control, but to celebrate consistency. After a month, he said, "I feel like my body trusts me again." And maybe that's the whole point. Not to regain youth, not to prove performance, but to rebuild trust with yourself. Because a man who trusts his own body again walks differently, breathes deeper, looks in the mirror and sees not just age, but aliveness. And it all starts with one slow, quiet, present moment. The night, George still sits by the window, but now something's different. His cup of tea is the same. The light still pours in soft, but his shoulders no longer sag inward. His breath no longer hides in his chest. In his house, they know their way back home. He didn't need a partner to feel loved. He didn't need a prescription to feel whole. He simply needed permission to pause, to listen, to return. And maybe that's what you need too. This video was never about masturbation. Not really. It was about restoration of connection, of dignity, of the quiet power that comes from being present in your own body again. For too long, you've been told that aging means fading. That desire has an expiration date. That pleasure belongs only to the young. But the truth is far more generous. Pleasure doesn't disappear. It deepens. It softens. It asks for more care, more curiosity, more reverence. And in return, it gives you something you may have lost along the way, a sense of being alive right now, in this body, in this moment. You are not broken. You are not past your time. You are not alone. In fact, you may be standing at the doorway of one of the most meaningful chapters of your life. Not one of conquest or speed, but of intimacy with yourself, with your breath, with the quiet wisdom of your body. So take that next small step. Maybe it's running warm water over your hands tonight and placing them over your heart. Maybe it's choosing to explore slowly, not with urgency, but with awe. Maybe it's simply writing down the words, "I deserve to feel again." Whatever it is, let it begin now. Not because you have to, but because you're allowed to. And if this video spoke to you, I invite you to share your voice. What's one small shift you'll start doing differently starting tonight? Leave it in the comments below. Your courage might be the exact mirror someone else needs. And if you'd like more videos like this, gentle, real, rooted in truth, subscribe and turn on notifications. Not to be flooded with content, but to be quietly reminded that your story still matters, that your body is still yours, that it is never too late to come back to yourself.